Good morning and welcome back to your favorite podcast. It could be none other than Pursuit the Pod. Good morning, no, but really, good morning and welcome back. Today, I've been thinking a lot about how your life and you as a person, you can look at it as if you're a business. And who are you? You're the CEO of this business. In fact, you're a lot of parts of this business, and we're going to get into it today. I had this idea when I was listening to one of my favorites, Layla Hormozi, and she was talking about how the difference between leaders and followers in all sorts of different situations. And she brought up Phil Jackson and his basketball players. Now, I know my audience is a huge basketball fan and obviously knows who Phil Jackson is. Just in case you don't, Phil Jackson is a renowned basketball coach. And one of the things that he was famous for was letting his players figure out on the court what they needed to do. So not always stepping in right away. And so Layla was describing how that is part of what makes a good CEO, a good leader, is having trust in your players and your people to figure things out and not always step in. And so I started thinking about that like in life and how if we control everything, similar to a business, there are just so many different facets of life, especially as you become more independent and not reliant on your parents. I think the most obvious way is financially when you become more independent, and then over time you accumulate more financial responsibilities and what I call life admin things, like easy, making sure your rent is paid, and then to more complicated things like buying a whole car by yourself and figuring out how all of that works. A big thing is building these systems that operate so that you don't become the bottleneck of your own life. So just as the CEO can't manage the sales and the marketing team and all of the finances and the future vision and the budgeting and the idea and the product without becoming the bottleneck of their business, we are also the same when it comes to ourselves, because we're responsible for our physical health, our emotions, emotional health, romantic relationships, friendships, family relationships, finances like I was talking about, your career, and then all of those admin things. And then also, at some point, we have to have some fun in life, right? Or not and drive yourself insane, but have some way to experience some joy. So there's all these different realms of life. And like I said, CEOs do not micromanage everything. Instead, systems need to be created, because what falls back on when you are so fatigued and you don't have the willpower anymore to do things, it's your systems. You fall to the level of your systems. You got to choose what deserves your active attention every single day versus what systems you can automate. And then a big thing is trusting those systems. Now, when it comes to creating the systems, some pre-work does need to be done, because how do you know what systems to follow? Like you have to front load the work so that it's not a constant work all the time. Set that initial plan and then be flexible, just like a CEO trusting the people of their company. Understand that your body is going to adapt to what it needs. Some cases are discipline. For example, getting up and going to the gym and going and working out. But that's also a system. That you're not relying on willpower there. Yes, it's you're going against, quote, what's natural. Like, okay, naturally, maybe you don't want to go, but there's still a system in place. And that's the system you fall back on. So you can see there's a couple different types of systems here. There's ones where in both cases, you do the pre-work ahead of time to figure out, okay, I'm going to go to this gym, I'm going to follow this workout, that's important. And then where these diverge is some, especially when it comes to bodily systems, you let naturally develop over time, just like the food. You listen to what your body needs, what it doesn't need, and you can release control that way. Other things, discipline, let's stick with the gym one, that's going. You're still releasing control, because you're like, it doesn't matter how I feel about it, I'm still going to go. And how you can determine which systems you're going to let regulate themselves versus which ones you're going to be relying on discipline instead is over time you're going to observe yourself. Is it bringing you closer to your goal? Is this system bringing you closer to your goal? Or is it creating a lot of pain? And then why is it creating a lot of pain? And this self-reliance, oftentimes it means turning inward, even small things. People think, especially when we're young, we always ask like other people what we should wear, what career we should pursue. Should I move? Am I smart enough? Am I attractive enough? What I want to invite you to do is have that pause. As soon as you get that impulse to ask somebody else what you think you should do, you to pause and think, what do I think? What do I think? Just pause. Don't ask anybody. I started doing this. I was like, well, what do I think about what I'm wearing? And then that self-trust in smaller things, like I'm talking the tiniest, like stupidest little things, like what color should my nails be? I remember asking people that when I was younger, like why does anybody else care what color my nails are? I'm the one that's going to be looking at these fingers all day, Like what color do I want? All the way up to bigger things. Like, should I get this job? Should I move? Should I stay in this state? Like more directional life things. Like when you start turning inwards, you gain confidence in yourself through proof, which we'll talk about later. And external advice is useful, and I do use it very specifically. Seeking input from other people is valuable when your source has either achieved what you want, lives the lifestyle that you want, or you really, really trust and respect their logic to the extent that you would trust them with something outside of their exact realm. The last one is far and few between, but when you really respect somebody and their thought process, you understand that they can apply their thought process to other realms of life. I encourage you in the pursuit of your goals to be really specific with who you choose to let the information come in. And it's not that we don't want to hear a lot of people's opinions. It's the fact that the more opinions we get, the more clouded and the more far away we become from our own opinion and our own choices. And something that helps is that a lot of decisions are not one-way doors. Most decisions are two-way doors. If you're changing your major or doing something different in school, or you're leaving a relationship, or you're switching a job, or you're moving cities, like people, like especially when these are happening in the moment, I know I can say them now and they don't seem like that big of a deal, but people get so stuck in thinking that all of these decisions are permanent when they're really not. All of those they can be changed. Like a lot of things in life are not a one-way door. And so having too many opinions when you're trying to make a decision can actually drown out your own voice, your own thoughts. And it's not like we don't want to talk to anybody because we don't trust anybody. It's because they don't know. This is the part that comes back to being the CEO of your life. They don't know all the different facets of your life that are going on. They don't know how everything is going to interplay together. And that's why you, as the CEO, what does the CEO do? They think about what are the future plans of this company. They're more strategic. They're not down in the operations, down on the floor, like welding the pieces together. No, they're sitting in the C-suite thinking about what is the next contract that we're going to acquire. That's what the CEO does. They plan strategically, and that's what you are. That's what you are. You are the CEO of your own life. So free yourself from all the minutia of on the ground of like what you're gonna wear and like all these like do that pre-work up front. Like I've simplified what I wear a lot, what I do a lot, and a lot of the thing in life is what you're gonna say no to. It's not about what you're gonna say yes to, it's about what you're gonna say no to. Who are you not going to spend your time around because they don't bring you closer to the type of person you want to be? What are the activities you're going to do with these people that are actually taking you away from what you need to get done? A lot of it is saying no. A lot of it, I'm a person who likes to do a lot of things, but am I going to do a lot of things? No, because if I did every single thing that I liked to do, I would not be focused on the things that I'm trying to accomplish. As the CEO, you got to be able to say no, and you got to be able to think strategically of where we're heading in life. So you're thinking, okay, I don't know what to do. How am I supposed to be the CEO in this and have all this strategy of my life when I don't even know what I'm supposed to do, what I'm supposed to pursue. I don't trust myself. That's at the end of the day, that's what you're telling me, is that you don't trust yourself. Now, I'll give you a very, very simple way to do this, to solve this. You start extremely small. You start with the small example like I brought up with the nails. Just ask yourself, what color do I want? You do that. The tiniest little things, like, what am I going to wear to this event? And I'm not going to ask anybody what they think. I'm just going to wear it. That's how you start building trust in your decisions. That's one facet of this that we'll talk about. Start building trust in your decisions through proof. Not through, I'm just so smart, and like I really think this is the right choice, and like I just have this feeling. No, like through proof of like, okay, I'm gonna wear this, everything's gonna be fine, cool. Not asking a million people of, like, what do you think about me doing this major? Like, what do you think about this job? Like, do you think I should do this? Or like, no. Like, ask yourself, what do you think? If you think it's a cool job, you gotta picture, what is the coolest thing that you can picture doing? What is the most meaningful, what is the coolest thing that you can picture yourself doing? No, actually, not even yourself doing, but you gotta take yourself out of it. What is the coolest thing that you can think of somebody doing? And you do that. Why would you pursue something that you don't think is the absolute coolest thing or most fulfilling thing to do? Just to get a paycheck? Okay, yes, we gotta acknowledge here that it's a blessing to be able to pursue what we want. But if you're listening to this, I think we're talking more not just getting by in life, but how do we actually create a rich and fulfilling life with meaning and purpose? That's really all we're out here trying to chase, is purpose. What is the reason behind all of this pursuit? Going after a goal gives you a life purpose, and you find moments of joy along the way. And you do not have to enjoy every single step of that. In fact, there's a lot of things you're not going to enjoy. There's going to be times when you feel depressed. There's going to be times when you feel like you're on top of the world. And just because you're feeling depressed at a moment, at a step along this way, does not mean that the whole goal is not worth it. When you think of yourself and you're thinking, what is the whole direction of my business, of my life going? You spend that time just thinking, like, okay, where can I steer my ship? It's also like, if you have, another analogy is if you have a massive boat. You don't just correct course one day, like, now I'm gonna turn 90 degrees, I'm gonna go that way. It's very planned out. I'm gonna think about the end goal first, about what's the most fulfilling, what's the coolest thing that I can picture somebody doing, and then break that down into steps. We could talk about that on a different episode because that's deviating from the idea of this. Free your mind from all the daily operations. Automate as much as you can to where you don't have to decide all these little details, and instead think about the greater vision of your life. And nobody else is responsible for fulfilling all these different areas of your life. So you got to think about, what is the minimum amount of social interaction I need to sustain happiness? What do I need to do with my finances to make sure I set myself up for the future? Do I need to invest here? Do I need to save here? What's worth spending hundreds of dollars for? What's not worth spending hundreds of dollars for? Like, what relationships do I invest in? Like, take the time to think. And all of this is about being the driver of your own life and not just being a passenger, not letting things are going to happen to you, right? Like, things outside of your control are going to happen to you, but then how are you going to adapt that to continue on the track that's more toward your final goal? And I can shove some parts down, I can put away to the side things that don't seem important all the time, like relationships, for example. That's a big one that I just tend to, that's an area of life that I tend to shut down and don't invest time into. But when I see it as a part of the company that's my life, of, this relationship or this friendship is actually a core piece of the business, for me, it helps me be able to allocate time to that, and also give empathy to yourself that, you are managing a lot of things. You are managing a lot of different aspects of your life, and What happens to people is that all of these little life responsibilities, all individually, it's not that much. It's not really that much to figure out how to pay for a new car, do your job, do some exercise. Like all those things individually, it's really not that hard. But the thing is like those things stack up and then you have so much going on in your life. But if you're just living as the passenger, you're going to be reacting to everything that life throws your way instead of being very intentional with your time. Like, how am I spending every single day? How am I spending my weekends? Is it bringing me closer to my goal in some way? Think about it. You have worked 20 years being in school. You've been working, and so you're going to enjoy the fruits of that labor. And then you start working a full-time job, you get comfortable, you make some money, and then what do people do? They stop going after something. And then you get to my age, you get to 25, 26, and you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, what is the purpose in life? And that's, and to continue having that purpose and that meaning, it's like thinking about strategically, what am I doing with my life, and not getting caught up in the day-to-day minutia of everything. There's so many things that happen on the day-to-day that require our attention. Things like going and getting groceries. Like, that's why I do not get my own groceries, because that's such a time sink. That's like an hour minimum, if not more. Like, especially nowadays, we got to use the resources that we have. Like, get your groceries delivered so that you can spend your time thinking about the greater vision of your life or working towards your life. Or like going out and shopping for things that we don't need. One, you're not gonna have your finances to pour into when the moment comes to where you need to pour hundreds or thousands of dollars into something to pursue an opportunity in the moment. That's one. And then two, it's the time. Money, okay, whatever, we can all make more money, but the time that is that nobody can get back. And so how are you spending your time? How are you spending your time? What are you saying no to? When you look towards yourself instead of somebody else to make the decision for you, you're closing that confidence loop. And that's how I picture it. How are you closing the loop? So let's say you want reassurance about a decision. Okay, that's like an open loop. And then if you go to somebody else to make that decision, they're closing that loop for you. And okay, when you're a child and you don't know anything about the world, of course, that's why like your parents close that loop for you, or your guardians, not your parents necessarily, but like somebody when you don't know, when you don't have the autonomy to make those decisions, somebody to close that loop for you, to provide you reassurance. Yes, like that is so, so important. Now, when we get older, who's closing that loop for us? Who's closing the reassurance loop? Because I'll tell you, reassurance does not fix underlying insecurity. Reassurance does not fix insecurity. You know what does? Proof does. Proof in your decisions. Proof that you made a decision, everything was okay. Even if it was the tiniest, stupidest little decision, but you made a decision, everything was okay. Oh, I just decided something and my life turned out better because of it. Oh, I made this decision and I did not like how that turned out. Like, I joined this membership and I never go. Okay, life is not a one-way door. Cancel the membership. It's not that big of a deal. I chose this major. Okay, I don't love it. Okay, get all the fruits of this labor and let me figure out something else. Like, you're not tied to it. It's not a one-way door. Proof that the decisions you make actually, either you'll pivot from them if they were, quote, wrong for you, or you'll enjoy the decision you made until you can make bigger and bigger life decisions. And the key is when you can start closing the loop for yourself. You start closing the reassurance loop. That's how you get confidence. That's how you get real confidence. Confidence is built on proof. Prove to yourself, and I believe in you that you can do it. I believe in you that you can turn inwards and take that pause. Just take that pause and don't pour out all of your emotions to every single person. Like, you could pour out your emotions to your journal. Like, pour out your emotions in whatever way you need to. Regulate yourself. But again, see, that's regulating yourself. You're not dumping everything onto somebody else. Sure, they're going to make you feel good, and that's the thing about people. They're going to make you feel so good, especially when you have a great friend, a great partner, something, like when they get you, yes, they're going to make you feel great, but like, what if you close that loop for yourself? What if you started trusting yourself to make the decisions of your life and managing this business and acquiring new ventures? And you're going to be a lot happier. You're going to be a lot happier because you're going to be able to, you're the only one that's born with you, and you're the only one that's going to die with you. You're the only person that is with you through every single experience that you've ever had in your life. So how is everybody else supposed to know what the best decision is for you? Yes, take advice from people who achieved what you want, or I'm always listening to people's ideas and like their trains of thought and like how they approach life and everything. I think that's the beautiful thing about humans, is that we have this propensity to share our experiences. But what I'm talking about, the specific decisions, it's like you're the only one who sees all the different aspects of your life and how they're going to intertwine. If I'm going to purchase this item, that means I actually have to say no to this other item. And like, does that lead me more towards what I want to do? Do I want to spend $3,000 on a course for something? Or do I want to spend $3,000 on a video editor? Or do I want to spend $3,000 on clothes? Or do I want to spend $3,000 on a trip? Like, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just like, what is the right or wrong answer for you? And don't outsource that decision. Just make sure that whatever decision you make, it's aligning with a higher strategy and not always impulse buys. Now, we'll talk about short-term versus long-term happiness. In fact, I've made an episode about that, because if you live too long in this strategy and this long-term happiness, you can't deprive yourself of the immediate joy, which I've made an episode about that, about the balance of how you know that. So check that one out. That's what I have for you today. Thank you for joining me this morning. We were walking and talking just like I started all of this out. So you got some organic car and nature sounds this morning. But I hope you have a lovely Tuesday, and I'll be sure to see you on the next one. You're the CEO of your own life. Don't forget it. Okay, bye.